Welcome to Backyard Oasis, a podcast designed by and for older adults living in the beautiful Pioneer Valley of Western Massachusetts and produced in the tech studios at Greenfield Community College in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Backyard Oasis reaches out to older adults who seek knowledge to help them live more thoughtfully, healthily, and happily, who hope to inspire others with their ideas, and who serve their communities in the interest of the greater good. We hope you join us frequently in our pleasant Backyard Oasis for wide-ranging conversations with a diversity of people who are growing older and want to talk about it.
Hello, this is Christine Copeland with Oasis, and I'm here today to talk with dear friends, I'm so excited about it, about the Farm and Food Program. And my two guests are Teresa Jones and Tony Reiber. Teresa Jones was a science professor at GCC for 20 years, teaching botany, horticulture, environmental science, and a number of courses, some of which I took, and they changed the way I look at the world. And they also changed the way I act in the world. So she was a big influence on me, and we have become dear friends, and I'm so excited to have her here. She also worked collaboratively with colleagues, community members, and partner employers in this incredible initiative that she will talk more about in just a minute, that had to do with renewable energy and sustainability. And she has a deep background in this because she's married to an organic farmer. She did not give me the following two bullet points because, and I'm hoping she won't get mad at me for mentioning them, but she was also nominated for a Green Giant Award by, I think it was either the Building Council or...
Green Building Council,
the Green Building Council. So we were thrilled when that happened. And then my other guest is Tony Reiber, who I have known since he's been here at GCC. I came on 17 years ago, can you believe it? That's when we started, and Tony came on a little bit later. He is currently the Natural Resources Program Coordinator, so he coordinates the farm and food systems and plant and soil sciences programs at GCC. He's teaching soil science, horticulture. He and Teresa actually taught horticulture together a few times, and he is the greenhouse production and management and he heads greenhouse production and management and organic gardening. He also manages this beautiful landscape outside called the Outdoor Learning Lab, and they will talk a little bit more about that. But for any of you who have visited the campus, you will remember that beautiful garden going up the hill towards the science department that used to be kind of a scrabbly woodland with water running through it and is now an outdoor classroom where visitors can come, other schools can come, but also the students here at GCC use it in a multiplicity of ways. So he is a native plant nursery grower, and he didn't mention this to me when he gave me his CV bullet points, but when I first met him, you were growing 20,000 red cedar trees. Is that Atlantic
Not
red
that
cedar?
many, but close. About
2,000.
12,000.
12,000.
Yeah.
Okay, I had written 2,000. 12,000 that were going to be used for restoration.
Yes.
So he has deep roots in land restoration, forest restoration, wetlands restoration as well. So Tony is committed to sustainable practices in agricultural systems through maintaining soil health and utilizing climate-adapted plant species. So, again, I'm thrilled to have them here. I think the fact that we're all still friends speaks highly to the working environment that was here during that whole sort of the heyday of all this stuff. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how it started, and then Tony's going to tell us about some very exciting initiatives that are happening now. So, Teresa, would you like to give us a little bit of history?
Sure, and I'll keep it to a little bit of history because, as I was thinking about it, it's fun to revisit, then also the details sort of blend together. It's been 20 years since things really got started, but I think I want to set the context. As Christine said, there was these sustainability initiatives that really speak to just the creativity and the collaborative, the partnership between people within GCC and the entire community. And that's the hallmark of these programs and why they're so dynamic and fun to be part of, and also an open invitation to anyone listening and to people you know to be connected to these programs in whatever way feels right to you. So in the mid-2000s, late 2000s, some colleagues and I, we started becoming more aware of the opportunities that renewable energy and energy efficiency workforce shortages were creating. And that it sort of caught our attention. We'd been very involved in environmental science and sustainability generally, with this idea that workforce and academics could come together and sort of support economic vitality and ecological vitality. It was like the most exciting thing to us. So again, with broad collaborations within the college and with many partners in businesses, organizations, other schools, we started to create courses and programs informed by what employers were telling us. Like, well, here's the skills we need. Here's the knowledge base. Here's the kind of passion we want new employees to bring. And those same employers were the ones who came and taught the courses because they had the expertise. They were the energy auditors, the solar installers, the general contractors building innovative green buildings. So this sort of web of collaboration, and we were able to get some wonderful funding from the state. So hundreds of people came and were able to make use of this program, and they continue to run the businesses in our community today. Now, agriculture is a very deep part of this place, right, in many, many ways, identity-wise, economically. And Bob Pura, who was our president for 18 years up until 2018, very aware of like what are the kind of the pulse, what's the pulse of the community. So he's the one who really, agriculture, of course, matters to me. I've been part of my husband's farm since the 90s. But he's the one who elevated it as a special thread in this sustainability initiative, because I was very focused on the energy piece at that point. Christine was my right hand in making all this happen.
And I remember at that time in Massachusetts, I think solar was like less than 1% or something. And now you look around and there are solar panels everywhere. And many of those installers were trained by Peter Talmadge.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Richard Gottlieb before him.
Yes,
I mean, the pioneers.
Yes.
I mean, Richard Gottlieb helped put PV into space. He was one of the early solar. So we're just so fortunate here. The talent pool, the expertise and knowledge and passion in this area. And that's where these programs come from. Like, we sort of invite people, come help us do this together. So Bob Pura in 2010 had Sandy Thomas was his special projects person. And he found some money and had her do a study, like, of what's the situation of an agriculture and food systems, both, the whole ecosystem of it, in the region. And what are the opportunities for people to become more involved, to grow this sector, and what role might GCC play? So that report, which was just beautiful, really said, yes, there's a huge opportunity here. So he was very instrumental in finding resources to then bring. It takes a really passionate person to be holding the torch, and that person was Abra Dresdale initially. She created Farm Food Systems course and then became part of the college as an adjunct professor and a program coordinator early on. And then the science department really got behind that, bringing in what we kind of already had, soil science, horticulture, botany, and we have business, all the kind of pieces that could really support people on a path to working in starting businesses in agriculture, in food systems. And thank goodness we found Tony in 2011, right? It's when you came on board, because that was the game changer. Because now we had in-house somebody with so many of the technical skills, the knowledge, the passion, the experience to both for curriculum, but also to build out what we wanted as campus, as classroom. We'd started that in the energy sector. We had solar panels, mock walls, ways for students to actually do things with their hands and learn in an applied way. And we really wanted to build that out in the agricultural food systems realm. And that's what we've been doing for the past 15 years. And so I'm going to stop there. There's just wonderful dimensions to the program that I think Tony can speak to more. And we'll go from there. So Tony, what do you want to jump in and add?
One of the things that I wanted to really discuss, and when I came on, realized that there were very passionate faculty and staff here that were dedicated to sustainable practices in this idea of teaching agriculture here at GCC. The students were also incredibly active. That was the one thing that just took me, kind of brought me in, and I was so excited by their enthusiasm, and I think that's really what brought me and motivated me and kept me going on a day-to-day basis. And so I think one of the things that we realized very quickly when I started here was that what we had for actual resources here on campus were very limited in terms of agricultural systems. And a lot of the classes were taught off campus. And not to say that that's a bad thing. You can really learn a lot from visiting farms, but it's also an accessibility issue, right? So students that were coming here, I think for them to have to go to another remote site could be a little bit difficult to make it there. And so a lot of the students were saying we need to have gardens on campus. We need to really have that place here. We need to make our mark. And so in 2012, with some garden plans that students had done in Abra Drysdale's class, the students said, here's a plan for a garden. Can we run this past our administration? We got the okay on it. And the thing that I really felt like was just an incredible experience to be a part of was that these students found a way to get this garden set up. We had no budget at that point, and everything was donated, whether it was the plants, the compost, the mulch. All of that was through the hard work of these students really going out there and getting some donations, and also turning it into a community event and really looking at if we're going to do this, we want to include anybody on this campus and in the public that wants to get involved. And within a few weeks, we had constructed the beginnings of a garden that's still in place right now. And I think that a lot of that initial garden development has been the catalyst to move us forward and to create more gardens, get funding, and to get that support. And I think it's like anything, right? That first step is the biggest step. And I think that was what we really dealt with in this experience, is that once our colleagues, students realized, well, this is beautiful, it's great to have this on campus, we took it from there.
And since then, other educational, schools and school groups have come, right, and seen some of the things that you've done, and Four Rivers kids come up, and do they ever use the gardens for
students do use the gardens, yes, as demonstration, as observations, but it's really been a great resource for both. I can't even name where we've made those connections, right? I know in the natural sciences how we can make those connections to existing curriculum. If you have a lecture in a lab, well, now you have this space outdoors that you can gather data from, you can observe.
And even the art department uses
right, and that's the part that I love
color.
Right, and that's the thing that I do love about it, is we talked about this, but we never thought, well, what is the end on there? And it's there's so many opportunities, right? It's so many opportunities for education, for just contemplation, anything, right? I get so much great feedback from folks, even today, of how this creates a quality of life or quality of work experience. You come up and you see the gardens. That's great.
I remember the excitement of that period too, when they put in, for example, one of the workshops was putting in the boardwalk that goes out to the wetland, and didn't they use big corkscrew type of footings?
Right, they were pioneering.
Yeah.
Wetland sensitive installations of boardwalks.
We used a precast concrete piers, and they were very low impact, and we were able to put that boardwalk in a weekend. We had
we were there. It was amazing.
Right, we did it within 3 days. We built it. We had several folks that were enrolled and engaged in that workshop, and now it's a resource that we have here on campus, and it's such a great little pocket wetland on campus.
Yeah, I've seen people sitting on the bench out there and reading. And for us, it was a wonderful workshop to attend because we have wetlands that that it was applicable for. How could we create a pathway through a wetland in a conserved forest? So it applied to that as well. So yeah, there was, and you still do that, right? It's still workshops that are open to the.
We still have workshops that are, there's varying things. We have these 1 credit classes that are really skill based, but we also have workshops too that are not for credit workshops where we're just offering this knowledge around what we've done here on campus in our outdoor learning lab.
I wonder if it might be useful for people who haven't come to the campus or who have come and see these beautiful gardens to just talk about the different parts of the garden, because there are distinct. So this is about 1 acre plus in a triangle shape, sort of inverted triangle, and you start down at the parking lot and walk uphill, pretty steep, up to the south end of the main building. And the first thing actually you encounter is a micro orchard that Tony and students designed and planted 10 years ago, Tony? How long ago now?
We planted that in 2018.
Okay, so 8 years ago, and those trees are big and yielding delicious fruits. Mm-hmm. And then as you walk up the hill, you encounter on your left this wetland that Christine and Tony were speaking of, with an accessible boardwalk and a bench, and wonderful to spend time in. Or I had botany students out there studying the plants, insect studies, and then as you continue up the sidewalk, you'll see some raised beds, which also, some of which are accessible and are full of vegetables right now. I was noticing how many things looked harvestable as I walked by. And then the next piece, which was a dream I had for years, is a botanical garden. So Tony and I put a lot of thought, and then Tony implemented, what kind of specimens do we want to bring in that really showcase native plants and different plant families, different growth habits, really different kinds of flowers, so that it's beautiful, it's ecological, and it's incredibly educational. And then behind that is an area that's like a learning space, a gathering space. We held classes there during COVID. Tony and I did our outdoor with the rolled out whiteboard, and it's a place for 15 or 20 people to gather. And then beyond that, now there's some more raised beds and grapes that Tony has planted. And on the right-hand side is this garden, which started as a permaculture garden that Tony was describing that came out of a student project. And then more beds near the greenhouse that have herbs and annuals. And so it's got a lot of different components. There are signs in it describing the different parts of the garden. And I wanted to share a very short story. When we dedicated this, and we dedicated it to Bob Pura in 2018, some students from years ago came, and one of them, who had been in my botany class in the early 2000s, was standing by one of the beds in the permaculture garden, and she looked up with this radiant expression. She said, I made this. This is a piece of me still at the college. I just get goosebumps when I say that. It's like that's the heart of it right there. It's a co-created thing in this sort of deep way that people, they give a piece of themselves to it, and then it remains here, and it's really delightful to be part of, and it's open, continually open for more people to participate, whether they're enrolled students, come to one workshop, one class, or are walking through and just visiting for the day.
One of the things that I, as a instructor here is I really think about how prior to having this outdoor learning lab functioning, it was a challenge to teach something such as horticulture where, we could do some of it, but we couldn't do all of it, right? And so it was often a stressor of, well, I will show you an image of this, but I can't really take you outside and show you something. And so once that was there, it really freed up that opportunity to say, well, I don't just have a pot under grow lights in the classroom. I can go outside and show students many examples of how to cultivate the plants that we are talking about in our classroom. And so it's really freed up that selection of possibilities in the curriculum. You know, I still go on field trips off campus, but for the actual hands-on applied work, we're really utilizing that space here on campus, and I can't say enough about how valuable that resource is to our program.
And it continues to evolve.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony started, we had the small scale, these beds, which are wonderful for actually getting your hands dirty, literally growing things, experimenting with different methods. And people wanted to really do some farming. And I'm married to a farmer. You got to get out there with some equipment and some larger scale stuff. So Tony, we have a GCC has a beautiful campus. It's quite large, and Tony started a small farm off on one side of campus. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit, Tony.
Yeah.
And while you talk about that and what went into it, I would love to hear the connection, because I read in the notes about how you are cooperating with the food pantry. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Growing food for the food pantry.
As Teresa was saying, is that I think that when we were starting on these small scale plots, it was we would fill them up very quickly. They're great for observation. We can grow a few things, but really kind of looking at that larger scale and scaling it up. And so there is a parcel of land on campus that years ago, one of the head of the grounds department said, "There's this field back here. No one uses it, and no one knows about it." So I did some soil tests and realized, it's just too wet. And then in the winter, realized that there was one parcel in the corner that looked like it was high enough to grow something. And so the next year I did some more soil tests and realized that the soil was great out there. And it was such a beautiful location here on campus that why not use this as a part of the curriculum, as a part of the internships, because that's how I'm using it mostly right now, is that students that do work over the summer are really spending a lot of time out there, and we were able to grow a lot more food and really look at giving this stuff away to the food pantry here on campus. And what a great opportunity to teach students about food cultivation, but then look at how we can, what's the end of it? How can we use those food resources and help out our fellow students here on campus? And so that's been a great collaboration with the food pantry. And what I'm hearing from the director of the food pantry is that she says every time there's fresh produce, it goes so quickly. And a lot of times we know the price of food is very expensive, and the value of food is, I think there's a lot of interest and enthusiasm for getting food here on campus, and I love that connection. Right? It's only benefiting our program. Even though we're giving food away, we're getting that notice that. From students, faculty, staff, that we are a part of this institution, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom.
Right, because other people have utilized the food pantry, not necessarily just students, right? That's what I thought.
I think it should be for students, but I think what I'm trying to convey here is that those students that might not be in this program realize, there is a program here that's growing food, and they're growing nutritious, delicious food. Yeah. And, I think that one of the things that I want to, as a part of my educational philosophy in this realm, is that anybody can grow a garden if they have the opportunity, and it doesn't have to be very big, but just getting that exposure to what you can do is part of the whole plan. So we are growing a fair amount of food. We've really expanded this year and growing a lot more than we have in the past years. I think we are going to have such an abundance of potatoes this year for the food pantry, potatoes and onions. So there's so many possibilities. We're going to finish up a hoop house construction project in the next month or so, and so we should have some season extension for growing outside of the regular growing season, because that's one of the things that I think I struggle with is the academic year doesn't always line up with the growing season, and so if we can do some season extension and really use that as a demonstration, students can see what we're doing well into the fall, and then hopefully also in the spring.
And season extension is such an important part of economic viability for agricultural, for farmers or for serious gardeners who want to get more out of our wonderful New England climate. Right. Tony, as you're speaking and you said everyone can grow a garden, and it makes me think of could you talk a little bit about the 1 credit reskilling classes, and just big picture, like from the inception of this program, it really had several legs, like a 3-legged stool. Like there's the academic leg, and there's this reskilling, this idea that there's all these skills, and people have them out in the community, but a lot of people want them and don't have them and would like them, or maybe don't even know those are skills that are so accessible. And that was really a hallmark of everything we've been doing, and we want to continue to have that match what's of interest and of need. And then the sort of more workshop scale things, particularly recently. But could you talk about like the organic gardening class, the other one credit, what that even means, and you can do it not for credit if you want. Just talk about that.
So we have a handful of 1 credit. We use the term reskilling. They're credit, non-credit, so you can take them either as a credit bearing and get 1 credit for that if you're on the academic track, or just take that course to gain some skills.
And 1 credit means 15 hours. Like in our minds, that's an instantaneous translation, but we understand that isn't how the general population walks around thinking probably about credits.
And all of these classes are really geared towards applied skill based. So there might be a little bit of theory, but most of it is really trying to get out there and implement some of these skills. And so to give you an example, we have in the spring, we have a 4-season farming class, and the intention with that is to look at systems that can extend our season on either the spring in the early part or in the later part of the year. And so as a part of that, the instructor who is teaching this is and for pretty much all of our 1 credit courses, these are individuals that are just teaching these classes as a part of their experience as professionals in the agricultural sector. And so they're sharing their knowledge and skills in these fields. And they have been with us pretty much since the inception of this Farm and Food Systems program. And that's the beauty of it, is that these folks are probably not making much from teaching a 1 credit course, but they really want to stay engaged with this institution, with the students, share their knowledge. And I think both instructors and students walk away at the end of those sessions feeling great about that experience. And so
I think maybe some more examples, like beekeeping as an example, mushroom foraging, mushroom cultivation, organic gardening with Tony. What are some others that are still running?
We have a food preservation class. There's also a garden installation, permaculture garden installation class that we have in the fall, and the whole concept of this 1 credit reskilling is, the possibilities are endless, right? There's so many opportunities in this sector, in the agricultural sector, and how can we train students to really look at gaining skills quickly and utilizing those.
There's a lot that goes into it that you don't think about either. You know, if you're a neophyte, you think, oh, I'm just going to plant this tomato seeds and they're going to grow. And I remember asking Teresa once, my tomato seedlings look lackluster. And she said, well, are you feeding them? So, I mean, you know, a newbie gardener wouldn't think of feeding, you know, considering what the base material is, or feeding their seedlings. And so there's a lot that goes into it. Even, I mean, when I was a kid, gardening was just part of life, and so that knowledge and those skills were just transmitted by our parents or our grandparents or whoever, you know. But during that interval, we just sort of lost that knowledge base. So this is so wonderful that it's coming back, because when you hear about food shortages and the needs of food pantries, especially now, it's big. We should have more gardens.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, and when I go out to the gardens here, and especially the gardens where we're growing herbs, and we have so many plants packed in a really small area, and you realize that you don't need a whole lot of space, and you can really improve your diet through having these abundances of produce. And even if it's seasonal, that's great, right? You know, it's
and you can freeze it. That doesn't take too much energy, right?
No, or is it too difficult? Canning is a little more of a project. Also doable. Just who wants to can in July though?
All right.
Too hot.
All right. Especially this July.
As I'm listening, Tony, I'm remembering groups of students in my mind, and I'm seeing this tremendous diversity of age and background and experience. So when we say students, really, it's a. I mean, from 14 to 80. I mean, there's all kinds of folks involved. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about the kind of students who's participating in this program. There's a huge amount of enthusiasm, and it's been growing, no pun intended, in the last few years, which is really exciting. And maybe So maybe share a little bit about what you're seeing.
I think to kind of get to your point is that the age range and just it's very diverse, and I really love having these classes where you can have someone who's in high school and you can have a retiree in the same class. And I think our students are really those that are looking to make a difference ecologically, socially, right? So, you know, food is definitely, there's a lot of issues around food, as we know, and they want to make a difference. And so I've been advising a student club, a co-curricular club, and I'm always amazed at the beginning of the academic year of how many students are like, that's really exciting stuff you're doing there. I really want to get involved. I want to create a community around this. And often see that one of the things that I guess I can't, I'm so grateful for this, is at the end of an academic year, a lot of these students have built these really strong relationships in a community based around nature, around food, around caring for others. I mean, this is really what it comes down to.
Right. The other wonderful thing about having this, which is can be very hands-on in moments anyway, but working within the science department, that garden would not be what it is to me had I not learned about the evolution of flowering plants and insects, or if you had not said to me once, try separating that, your cardinal flower vegetatively instead of with seeds, because I wasn't too successful with seeds. So the combination of the science and the more sort of practical physical work is a real added.
And I'm always amazed. I mean, I live with a farmer, right? I live farming, and how much science there is all the time running in the background.
Yeah.
Whether you're figuring out the chemistry of the irrigation water in the greenhouse, or the exact mix you need in the soil mix for this particular indoor crop you're doing, and how fast is that nitrogen going to become available? These are like the things that we deal with in soil science and horticulture and botany. And then being able to implement that with the technology and the available products, like then there's the applied part. So it really is this ongoing dance that, I mean, it's a really great capacity that farmers and other agricultural folks need to do their work well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, I was wondering if we could, how you felt about moving on to this what's happening right now with this C2A3 grant. Is this a good time? Okay. So tell us about what you're doing with this current initiative.
And also explain C2A3, because we love acronyms, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of letters.
So last fall, I was there was someone had reached out to me from the Midwest with this group called the Community College Alliance for Agricultural Advancement, and this was a very large grant from the NSF's Advanced Technical Education program. We received one of those grants to build out the
Outdoor
OLO.
Learning Lab, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so they were looking to expand. It was really just based in the Midwest. It was a consortium of 10 community colleges that had agricultural education programs, and they were looking to expand to the Northeast, to the South, to the West. And they wanted a regional coordinator for that program. And so in my conversations with this group and with my supervisor, we really thought this would be a great opportunity to house this regional coordination of the C2A3 program here at GCC. And what that is going to require is that I recruit other community colleges throughout the Northeast, pretty large area, that have agricultural education programs. And there are several conferences that we'll be attending with students, and the students will be working on an agricultural education leadership program where they'll have to develop a project that is community-based and revolves around agricultural economies. And so this fall, I'm going to a conference with 2 students in Wisconsin, and for 3 days. And it's really kind of an exciting way to meet other educators throughout the country that are working on vastly different agricultural systems, but we all have one piece kind of linked in. You know, the great thing about this grant is it's very flexible with what the definition of agriculture is, because it's really expanding into other natural resources, into conservation. And, you know, we have that all, right? We have agricultural program here. We also have a environmental conservation program, and they overlap a lot. And so, you know, I do feel like we have had this, you know, Teresa and I are really like, you know, sustainability is at the core of what we're focusing on. And so I've already been talking to a few community colleges throughout in the Northeast. I actually spoke with someone a few weeks ago who is running the first associate's program in urban agriculture in New York City, in Queens. Wow. And so I was really excited to bring them on into this program and really look at like, well, there's so many different faces of this, from, you know, 1,000-acre farms in the Midwest to these like little pocket gardens in very densely populated urban areas. And so I think it's going to bring a lot of support that here. And as I said, I think the best way to really learn new things is to reach out to those that work in the same field as you and really kind of talk about, well, what are your successes, what are your challenges, and really go from there.
Very cool. And Teresa, on that front, you've been talking to possible regional partners. So can you tell us a little bit about that, or in terms of how this initiative might happen or take place?
Well, what I love about this moment, right, is that the program continues to change, right? And this connection now that Tony has with the Midwestern Initiative is a moment to look and say, well, let's look forward for the next 10 years. Like, what does this region need? What's the vision? What are the challenges? Like, what are the things that are happening all over that we don't even know about? Like, how do we convene? I think GCC is a great convener. Convene all the passion and talent and innovation, and then see where we can participate most effectively. So there's organizations like CISA, the Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture, that has since the 90s been connected to farmers and asking some of these same questions. So I had a long conversation with Margaret Christie yesterday about like what are some partnerships? How could what CISA's done? How can we build on that? So she had a lot of suggestions about where could students connect and plug in and find out, because doing some research here is part of this program, right? Tony, identifying things that might be helpful for us to look at without the kind of economic consequences when a farmer tries to pilot something.
Right.
So there's things going on that I didn't know about in the Valley. Really interesting program. So it's just the early stages of exploring. We don't want to be redundant, right? We want to add. And particularly, Tony is now going to be drawing upon this much broader region of the whole Northeast, which is exciting. And also invite people anew, and that's part of our message today, is like this is an ongoing conversation with the community. And that's everyone. Everyone eats. Everyone's part of the food system. And many, many people are doing things that we don't know about or might want to be engaged in the future of farm and food at GCC, whether as teachers, as volunteers, as participants, as all of the above. So that's, I think, kind of where my perspective was like, how can we really broaden the scope of participation and thinking about the future, and supporting Tony, who's doing, I don't know, a million and three things last I counted.
People. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you add to that, Tony?
One of the things that I haven't discussed yet is I've been collaborating a lot with our library here at GCC. We had, about 10 years ago, we started a seed library that was opened to not just our community here, but to the general public, of anybody that wanted to take some seeds. You know, the idea is you check seeds out, and if you have an abundance, you can bring back those seeds, and hopefully this will go on in perpetuity. I think that we've had a great response from folks in the community of just saying this is a great resource, right? It's offering something that can be often pretty expensive. You know, you wouldn't think seeds are that much, but they can add up. And also to just talk with folks of like, hey, if you want to garden and this is what you want to plant, this is how you should go about doing it. That's a really it's skill transfer, knowledge transfer, but on a very informal method, right? And so I've been working with the library to do a few workshops. These are not ones that you have to register for. You just show up, and we'll talk about, well, how do you start seeds in the spring? How do you collect those seeds from the crops that you've grown and save those for the next year? And I think that's been such a great way to reach out to our community here and really get that message out that anybody can be a gardener.
Tony, how do people find out that those things are happening? They're on the GCC
They're on the website. Yeah, they're on the website.
On the main event, on the main page, when it's like things that are happening soon.
Yeah, and the library's been very active with social media too, so they're getting the message out with that. Also.
And I will be posting this on social media as well, and sharing it, sharing this podcast, because these podcasts, which were started by Judy Reiber, who's another green hero. She's so amazing, but she's trying to invite the older population in, our listeners today, and of course anybody can listen. We have listeners, Alex, right, all over the place. So 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 they are invited to maybe get in touch with you or participate in these workshops. And the thing that I wanted to add about that is that these folks are learning things, but they're also bringing a lot of knowledge with them. I mean, I remember some of the students in the renewable energy program, because they were out of work or whatever, they said they were embarrassed to be coming back to college because they were, 45 or 50 or whatever. And I said, you're bringing so much knowledge and also just so much experience. So that the working together of the generations is really quite wonderful. So we invite all of you Oasis listeners to come or to share all this fabulous stuff with your kids or your grandkids. And you can get in touch with Tony at his email as well, which we'll post on the podcast description.
Yeah, and if people have particular ideas or requests for, well, here's a reskilling class that I would love to take or would love to teach or know somebody who I think would love to teach, that would be a fantastic contribution to us. What's what we're really wanting to know is what's needed now. We know what's worked in the past, and we can continue it, and yet everything is changing, and it's the people who come and have the passion that then take us forward.
Yeah.
So this story really is not complete without mentioning two incredibly important and wonderful people. Brian Adams, who was a professor of environmental science for decades at GCC, and Peter Rosnick, who was a professor and then a dean and tireless supporter, finder of resources, weeder, digger of holes, all the things that really kept us going. And so I want to give everybody a chance to talk about those two amazing folks.
Yeah. So Peter was our dean. He was amazing. He just could figure out how to do things. And I thank you so much for mentioning him, Teresa, because I was thinking of that coming down and thinking, well, I have to have Peter on too. But I think that when Peter comes on, we'll talk about something else. We'll talk about children's books because that's what we're both doing in our retirement. And maybe Brian will come too, and he can talk about his books that came out of all of this. So they were very important participants as well. So
I think one of the things that I was prepping for this conversation, I really thought that when we built that first garden and that was the catalyst to start moving forward, none of that would have happened if Peter wasn't really engaged in that process. This was after he retired as a dean and really spent so much time finding grants for us to build out the outdoor learning lab and really working, as you said, Teresa, tirelessly on this process, and really to this day is still engaged in some way, whether it's coming out and helping and volunteering and weeding, or just asking about like how are things going with this program? How can I be of service to that work? And so that's really I can't say enough about.
And engage with the foundation as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
And I want to say one more thing about Brian, because I got to it was a joy working with him so many years, and really the renewable energy, the sustainability program got legs under it because of him. He and I went to a conference out at Hudson Valley Community College in 2007 about renewable energy, and that's where we had the aha moment of, oh, there are jobs that are going to make a difference environmentally and economically. And we got excited, and there was a course in place within 3 months, and Brian did all the paperwork for these courses, which if you haven't worked in academia, you can only begin to appreciate the lift of that, and just made us laugh.
Yeah.
And kept us in good humor through all of it. So it's the village that makes us, and it continues to be the village, and we are so fortunate to be in a place where people are passionate and engaged and energetic, and
I think
really
Brian
involved.
also was somewhat fearless too of barriers that came in front of us as a department, and I really appreciate that, because I think that's what was required sometimes of well, if someone tells you no, well, you have to question some more and push a little bit harder. And he was really good at doing
Yeah,
it.
unstoppable.
He wasn't daunted by bureaucracy.
So big thanks to everyone and those two folks in particular.
Okay. I think that's, unless there's something else you wanted to add.
I think
Tony.
one of the other things, too, is if anyone wants to come and volunteer in the gardens, I'm always up for help. And that is also, as you mentioned, Christine, is a good way to connect with a variety of different folks in different populations and really look at like what skills can they bring and what kind of what can they share and how can we share something with them. So, yeah.
And there's often some excellent snacking opportunities in the garden,
yes.
too. So that's a perk.
Snacking opportunities, and if Tony is out there, pick his brain, because there's so much to learn about native plants, native pollinators, what the native, what are they called? Keystone species support, all that kind of stuff. So if he's out there, say, I heard about you on Oasis. Well, thank you both so much. This was so fun.
Christine.
It was so fun to go back in time a little bit, and it was so fun to just feel the energy of what's happening now and what will happen, as time goes by with all these great students who are so engaged. And it gives us hope, right? It gives us hope.
They're going to lead us forward.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
This concludes today's podcast. We're always looking for new ideas, so feel free to reach out to Judy Reiber, Associate Dean of Community Engagement at Greenfield Community College, at 413-775-1819 if you have an idea you'd love to share. Special thanks to the creators of Backyard Oasis, Denise Schwartz, Chad Fuller, Dennis Lee, and Christine Copeland. Have a great day.